What if the wars we watch on our screens are not isolated conflicts, but echoes of an ancient pattern humanity has repeated for thousands of years? A pattern recorded long before satellites, long before empires rose and fell, civilizations collapse, new powers emerge, faith is tested, and every time people believe their moment is unique. But is it? Or are we moving through a cycle that was mapped out in fragments of prophecy, history, and human behavior? The question is not whether conflict exists. It always has. The real question is why these moments seem to arrive with such precision, and why each generation feels the same tension, the sense that something larger is unfolding just beyond what we can see. Right now, the world feels unstable in a way that is difficult to name but impossible to ignore. Alliances shift. Power concentrates. Technology accelerates faster than culture can adapt. Faith traditions face new pressures in a hyper-connected age. This is not just political noise. It is structural tension, the kind that historically signals turning points. When ancient texts described kingdoms rising like beasts or statues crumbling from hidden fractures, they were not only speaking symbolically, they were observing how power behaves when stretched to its limits. Every era believes it stands at the center of history, yet time and again, humanity discovers it is standing at the edge of transformation instead. Ancient writers recorded cycles of dominance, corruption, and renewal with unsettling clarity. In biblical prophetic literature, empires are often portrayed as temporary instruments, powerful, intimidating, yet inherently fragile. The language is vivid because the pattern is real. A kingdom rises through strength and unity. Prosperity follows. Confidence becomes arrogance. Internal decay sets in. Then comes the fracture. Historians see this rhythm in Babylon, Rome, and countless lesser powers. What prophecy framed in symbolic imagery? History confirmed through evidence. These texts were not predicting headlines. They were describing the mechanics of human systems under pressure, a blueprint for how authority expands, overreaches, and eventually resets. What makes these patterns compelling today is how closely they mirror modern dynamics. Global power is no longer defined only by territory or armies. It is shaped by information, financial networks, and technological leverage. Control is quieter, but deeper. Ancient warnings about concentrated authority now read like commentary on digital infrastructure and geopolitical strategy. When systems become too centralized, resilience decreases. The same principle governed ancient empires and governs modern networks. History does not repeat in costume. It repeats in structure. The tools change. The psychology remains. Ambition, fear, belief, and survival continue to drive decisions that ripple across continents. Faith traditions anticipated this tension between human authority and moral responsibility. Prophetic narratives often focus less on predicting dates and more on exposing patterns of behavior. Leaders rise, promising order. Societies trade freedom for stability. Crises justify expansion of control. These are not accusations. They are recurring human responses to uncertainty. When ancient texts warned about deception or misplaced trust, they were addressing a universal vulnerability, the desire for certainty in chaotic times. That desire has shaped revolutions, reforms, and collapses throughout recorded history. It is not inherently evil. It is profoundly human and therefore predictable. Modern parallels intensify this conversation because technology amplifies both power and fear. Information travels instantly. Narratives compete for dominance. Entire populations can experience the same emotional shock in real time. This creates a feedback loop where perception influences policy, and policy reshapes perception. Ancient observers would recognize the core dynamic immediately. Whoever controls the story influences the direction of the state. Today, the battlefield includes data streams and public belief, yet the stakes remain familiar authority, survival, and identity. The scale is global, but the underlying tension is ancient. The most striking revelation is not that prophecy aligns neatly with specific events. It is that the structural warnings embedded in these texts continue to describe how human systems behave under stress. Power seeks consolidation. Resistance emerges. Belief systems are tested, and societies face a recurring question. Will fear dictate the future, or will wisdom interrupt the cycle? This insight feels hidden only because modern culture often separates history, faith, and politics into isolated conversations. In reality, they are threads of the same tapestry, a continuous dialogue about how humans organize power and meaning. When viewed through this lens, today's turbulence appears less like random chaos and more like a familiar phase in a repeating sequence. That does not mean outcomes are predetermined. Patterns reveal tendencies, not destiny. Awareness changes trajectories. Civilizations that recognized internal fragility adapted. Those that denied it accelerated collapse. The same principle applies now. Understanding historical and prophetic frameworks is not about predicting catastrophe. It is about recognizing signals moments when decisions carry disproportionate weight. These are inflection points where small actions influence large outcomes. This perspective invites reflection rather than fear. If cycles are real, they also contain opportunities. Renewal has always followed crises. Ethical recalibration has historically emerged from instability. Faith traditions emphasize accountability, not as punishment, but as course correction. The warning embedded in ancient narratives is less about doom and more about responsibility. Power without restraint destabilizes itself. Belief without reflection hardens into dogma. Progress without ethics fractures trust. These lessons are not relics. They are operational principles visible in every era. So, what does this mean for the future? It suggests that humanity is not trapped in prophecy, but continually confronted by choices that echo through time. We inherit patterns, but we are not powerless within them. Awareness transforms repetition into intention. The signal hidden in war, power, and faith is not a coded prediction of a single event. It is a recurring alert when systems strain. Character matters. Decisions made in moments of uncertainty define the structure that understanding future generations will inhabit. History shows that societies rarely recognize turning points while they are inside them. The noise is too loud. The stakes feel too immediate. Yet with distance, the pattern becomes obvious. We may be living through one of those moments now, a convergence of technological acceleration, geopolitical tension, and spiritual questioning that mirrors past transitions. The difference is scale. For the first time, humanity experiences these shifts as a connected whole. The signal is louder, but so is the opportunity to respond with clarity, and that leads to the final transmission, not a prediction, not a verdict, but a reminder. Patterns do not control us. They reveal. Every era receives the same message in a different form. Power tests integrity. Crisis tests wisdom, and faith tests direction. The question is not whether the signal exists. It always asks. The question is whether we recognize it and choose to answer with awareness instead of fear. The transmission is ongoing. The pattern is active, and the next move belongs to us.